Are we live?
We're back.
Oh, shit. I was going to say, we back.
Yeah, we're back, man. And we got another special guest. Something different again
Yeah.
from the last.
We're going deep.
Really
we might
deep.
be going maybe a little deeper than the last episode with Sylvia, which appreciate you guys for rocking with us on that one. That one got a lot of good feedback. And so it kind of got us interested in like getting to the next level, maybe. And we reached out to the homie.
Yeah, so, I mean, the great thing about podcasting is we keep running into people that we didn't think we were going to run into. So shout out to Jimmy. We did a podcast with him.
Yep.
He brought a friend with him. And after we ended the pod, he was like, hey, you guys need to have her on.
Yeah,
And we're
we
like,
started
"What does she
talking,
do?"
yeah.
And it just so happened that she had, we'll talk about it later, but she had a card deck that she was working on, an event coming up. So she was really excited about that. And she's done so much in her life. So we're like, yeah, let's make it happen.
Yeah, and then we found out she's she practices medium, right? And so we were like, whoa. And for me, I'm not so familiar with that. But let's, without further ado, let's introduce her, right?
Yeah, we got Nicole, aka Nicole the Medium.
Hello.
Let's go.
Yes, how are you?
I'm well. How are you two?
We're doing good.
Good. We appreciate you bringing the coffee to get us even more hyped up for this episode.
Let me try this.
And you're not even a coffee drinker, dude. And for me, I already had a full cup.
Did you?
Yeah,
Hey,
I
this
just
is
had
kinda
a full cup.
vibe.
I literally downed it too. Where did you get the coffee from?
It's from Pip Coffee and Clay in Phoenix.
Oh, okay, cool. Nice. Appreciate it.
Pretty dope. Well, before we get too deep, can you explain maybe a little bit what a medium is for anyone that doesn't know?
Sure. So a medium is someone who has the ability to connect with souls who have passed away. And then there's psychics that are different.
Oh,
I don't know if you knew that.
Yeah, okay, so mediums are like the afterlife
Yes.
and past, and psychic, is that like
Someone-
telling the future or?
Kind of. It's more about the here and now and what you are going through in this moment. You can
Okay.
also see things about your family members, past, present, future. And so there's people who do a mix of two.
Okay.
I do a mix of two, but my heart definitely lies with people who have passed away and they need, the people on earth still need closure and healing and
Gotcha.
just making sure people know that the soul is eternal. It lives forever.
Wow, that's really interesting. So, that being
super
said,
interesting.
before we get too deep,
Right.
you actually did it's called a business birth chart reading.
Yes.
So for anyone that doesn't know, you can get a birth chart reading for yourself, but you said that you can actually do it for a business too.
Yes.
So you took mine and Frankie's info and then some of our podcast info and then put together a reading for us. So let's get into that. Like, how does that work? Like,
Yeah, so astrology is definitely trending right now. It's very common for someone to say, oh, it's your sign when you're out and you meet them. And so as much as I really love when people can understand themselves and why they are the way they are, which is what a birth chart will entail, knowing your business birth chart, you can have it for relationships, for marriages, anything that was birthed energetically into the world. There's a point in time where all the planets were placed and it has an influence on how that energy is going to
Got it.
work with you, right?
And you're able to help people read. So if someone says like, hey, will you help me get some information based off my birth chart for my relationship? You're able to help them with that?
Yes.
Okay, gotcha. So we're not, so just so we're clear about it, it's going to be on the business side, right? Because our relationship is still building. Or do you want to do a relationship reading as well? No, just kidding.
And there's that too. There's when you take two people's birth charts, you lay them over one another and you see how the planets are interacting and the energy that it creates. So I started getting into business birth charts because I've had several businesses be birthed and I wanted to know the energy behind them. So the first time I worked with an astrologer, she told me to release a product at 10 a.m. on October 5th. And I sold out within an hour and a half.
what?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
And then with the event that you were speaking about earlier, we also used an astrologer. And we ended up having over 400 people come out, which was so beyond our expectations.
Wow. Congratulations on that, by the way.
Thank you. Thank you. That was definitely a moment in the books for us.
Wow. Yeah, because you guys started that. It wasn't like, obviously you have your personal page and your business partner partner does too, but you guys started a completely separate business page, everything to do that event.
Yes.
So it was like something brand new. You guys weren't like introducing a new product like that you guys already had a line of. It was something brand new that you guys introduced.
Exactly.
Which is hard to do.
Yeah. And so that's why we really dialed into the astrology of it, because when we picked the day to release the brand, that was really important, because our message, what we want it to entail, is the world going to receive that message in the same way. So if the energies are right, then yes.
Wow.
That's why sometimes you feel like you put something out there and people just aren't getting it. And it's because in my belief, maybe the stars weren't in the right place for people to receive it.
And you hear that all the time too. Like maybe people don't take it as serious, but people say that all the time. Maybe it just wasn't the right timing, or maybe the stars weren't aligned. Or
Jimmy actually mentioned something like that to me. It's kind of weird that you say that. Now I'm thinking about it. When we were talking, he basically was just like, he's like, I don't think the timing was right. He said for Easy Life or whatever.
Yeah, I mean,
but I didn't question it. I just kind of like, now that you're saying that, like him saying that, like obviously, you know, I'm pretty sure like what you do rubbed off on him a little bit. So he's probably just like, I don't think the timing was right, dude. And I was just like, that's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, that's with anything, because like you can hear a song and maybe it won't pop off until like 5 years later. Yes. And you're like, I knew it was good, but like it just wasn't the right time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I started writing the card deck in 2021, and it just would not get itself out. And I was getting so frustrated because I'm like thinking I'm lazy or I'm not working hard enough.
Something's wrong, yeah.
And now as the time approached to release it, I realized that the world wasn't ready for what the business entailed.
So if you would have dropped it then, it wouldn't have worked.
Yeah, it wouldn't have gone as far as I think it's going to go, and it wouldn't have grown into what it has. So that's why I'm excited to tell you about your birth chart a little bit for the podcast, because then you can really dial into what I think your audience should be and what the energy should.
Let's go.
Let's do it. And to our listeners, this is going to make or break us. This might be our last podcast if we don't get a good.
We're gonna go with what Nicole says and just drop podcasts on whatever date. Like, you know what I mean? Like, dang, because we do every Tuesdays.
Yeah,
and we've been talking about changing up the dates.
So Tuesdays are what we call, every day of the week has like a planet that influences it, and Tuesdays are Mars days, which is action. So
it's a good day.
Mondays are a day to set the tone for the week, but I think Tuesdays is a great day because people are getting their stuff done, maybe throw on a podcast to listen to while they're cleaning or doing this or that. So I think also birth charts are cool because you see how in tune with yourself you actually are.
Okay.
Yeah, you don't notice that you are. You're knowing what's going on without knowing.
Yes.
So before we jump into it and we start getting the details for this, whose birth chart really threw you off? Like when you were looking at it, you were like, whoa.
You're like, what's up with this guy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because we don't know each other, right? We don't know each other. Just
that's
like,
a good point.
Yeah. So was there like maybe someone like, what the?
No, but it didn't throw me off because I have that ability to read people. So there's not like I come in here reading people, because I don't. I always joke now, unless I'm getting paid for it, I'm not reading you.
Sure.
So I had feelings about both of you, and when I looked at your birth chart, it kind of confirmed it a little bit more. So I looked at yours individually, and then I looked at the podcast, which is two different three different readings. Yeah.
Oh, because it's mine, his, and then the podcast together as a business.
Right. So there's your birthday, his birthday, which is your own life.
Right.
And then the podcast is the time that you gave me that you feel like the podcast was
I
born.
didn't even tell you that.
What?
So she said, we need a date for the podcast. She said, what's a date and time that you think it kind of started for us, you know, like got
what
going.
Day did you go?
So I did the day that we dropped Ernie's, because that was our first guest. Remember, we did the announcement that I was going to be on, that we're going to start our journey.
I see what you're saying. Yeah.
And Ernie was our first guest. Me and you did, and that was kind of the one that I felt that stamped us. Like,
it definitely
we're doing
off.
this.
Yeah, I think that's a good date.
Yeah.
So how do you want to do this?
Yeah.
You're going to start us individual or the business?
Let's just do the business, right?
Okay, we can do the business, and
Oh, I'm trying to do individual too.
I can do a little bit of yours too.
Okay.
I'll just tell you what the energy of your podcast embodies. So I did January 4th at 6 a.m. Okay. So I am going to explain a little bit about we call it a big three. Anyone who knows astrology probably knows this, but it's called your sun, moon, and rising. So the sun sign for your business is a Capricorn. So it's very business orientated. It's traditional in a sense, respectful. You guys like to take your time with stuff. You don't like to rush things. and you really want to build a good reputation with your audience. Then you have the rising sign. The rising is how the world sees you. Okay, so this is how the world best receives you as well, and receives the podcast, and that's in the sign of Sagittarius. Okay, which you are a Sagittarius.
Yeah, that's my sign.
And Sagittarius is the philosopher, the world traveler. They're very optimistic, and you guys have Jupiter, the planet of good luck and good fortune, ruling your entire chart. So everything is always just going to kind of work out for you guys, and you bring good energy to people. So people are like, I just feel good when I listen to your podcast. I don't know what it is, and I think that you help people open their minds. So even just this episode is going to open people's minds in a way that they haven't thought about things before.
That's cool that you said that, because I do want to say that. I know there's a lot of people that are skeptic and are very religious. I talked to Frankie about this. I grew up very, very religious, and we are not bringing people on to like detract from that or argue that. We're just bringing people on that have a different side of it. Sure. You know what I'm saying? So that's why we're doing. That's cool that you said that.
Open your mind.
That's exactly why we're doing this, because we're not coming on here saying this religion is fake. This is what she does is not real. Like, we are so open, and we want people to see different things that are going on.
Yeah, absolutely. And even just in my own, I grew up with a very religious family. Like, I've had to challenge a lot of those scary feelings as well too. And so I believe that astrology is here to help you. It's not here to be a belief system that you like worship, and it's
you're not here to change someone's mind.
No.
But if they're asking for it, you can help them. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So,
with that real quick, sorry to cut you off, but with religion, do you believe in a certain religion, or just more spiritual? Or?
Yeah, I don't know what I believe. So my brother is a youth pastor, actually at what's that big church here on Litchfield Road?
CVV?
No, Palm Valley Church.
Oh, Palm Valley.
Yeah, he's been there for a while. And so I've had a lot of interesting conversations with him about it. And it is something that I struggle with because I was raised that way. And I just came to a crossing point one day when I was like, okay, this is an ability that I was given, and I'm just going to have to take the risk. If I die and something happens to me because I didn't believe a certain religion, I'm just going to have to accept it, because on this dimension or this plane, I'm helping people. I'm doing what I believe I'm supposed to do. And so I kind of just went into it a little fearful, but I do feel like it's what my calling is. So I just keep going with it. Yeah. But I think that there's magic and beauty in all religions, and astrology is just something that's personally helped me thrive in this lifetime. So
and help you help others.
Yeah. So and then you have your moon, which is how your emotions. So the emotions of the podcast and how it likes to work in that capacity. So you guys have that in the sign of, I'm sorry, I think I pushed this backwards. In the sign of Libra, which rules the fine arts.
I'm a Libra.
Yeah.
Stand up. I told you. Wait, Libras rule the fine arts?
The fine arts, beauty, self-care.
You're cute, bro.
Yeah.
What I'm talking about right now. Just kidding.
So that's why you think about the people that you've had on. They've all been artists and designers and people who have an affinity for the arts, because that's what hits the emotional point of the podcast.
Man, I'm loving this.
It's going good.
Yeah.
Where's the bad? Is there any bad in this? Oh, God.
It's funny that we always think that, right?
I know, huh?
Like, remember we were talking about with Sylvia? It's like, accept. Like, don't block the blessings, I guess you could say. Like, and we just automatically go to like, well, where's the bad?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to block this blessing right
There's
now.
a saying that I always hear in my head. It's like, you're never as good as they say you are, and you're never as bad as you say they say you are. You know what I'm saying?
Gotcha.
So like, I never feed into like people like hyping you up. You're so good. But then I also, on the other flip side, I don't feed into you guys are bad. You're not doing good. This and that. I kind of try to go in the middle.
Yeah.
That's good.
Keep that balance.
So the moon. So let's take a step back. Just a quick recap. So we said that there's the three, right? Okay. So we obviously the most recent one I remember is the moon in the Libra, right?
Yeah.
And then the Sagittarius is the sun, or the
Capricorn.
Capricorn. Okay, got it. And then what was the other one?
And the rising is in Sagittarius.
Sagittarius. There we go. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. Yeah, so if I were to put those in a beautiful little combo for you, it would be very professional podcast that wants to open people's minds and give them food for thought, make people feel good, and then also help support people in their creative endeavors and just have the will to keep going and pushing and be motivated to do what they feel that their soul is calling them to do.
Bro, hit the claps, bro. What the? Hey, that's literally what we want to do.
Yeah, it's basically what we say. Yeah.
Wow, that's kind of crazy.
It's on point. Yeah.
That is on
sure.
point. And I will say, like you said, she doesn't know us.
Yeah,
so
exactly. Yeah.
That's what's kind of cool about this. Like, if you would have known us, it might have been like, oh, she knows how we are and stuff.
Right.
But yeah, that was kind of cool.
Yeah,
that's
it's
crazy.
super cool. And I think something else that's cool about it too is, for me personally, I've realized where I don't have the guts to showcase myself in a certain way, I use my businesses as this alter ego almost. So where I don't feel like I'm super outgoing in ways, my businesses have placements that are extremely outgoing. And so I just like live vicariously through them because I created them. So that's also, if someone feels like they're lacking something, why don't they try creating like the opposite of that thing?
Wow, that is a good point, because I feel the same way. Like, me and Frankie always talk about it. Before we started this podcast, I was in the house. I didn't go to events. I didn't go to this. I didn't go to that. And we've went to mixers, album releases since this podcast. So yeah, it's like I'm living a different life through this podcast that I love, but it's not my normal self,
Totally.
you know?
And there's also, I just want to say, we also have something called the career line. You guys also have that in Libra. So it would be really good for you to stay, not limited to, but stay in the arts for sure. Or if you're going outside of the arts, then try and see if that person has more of a artistic flair on what they do. Does that make sense?
So like you're not in the arts, but you have creative side and that little
Okay, yeah. I like that.
That's perfect.
And then the other thing I was going to tell you is that your birth chart is more introverted. So there's something called a day and a night chart, and you guys have a night chart. So it might feel hard for you to get out of your like hermit mode sometimes, or comfort zone. Yeah, exactly. So I challenge yourselves to like go out more, maybe even out of state for something, or just this will happen as the podcast evolves, but it's definitely meant to be here in this world. Okay. It's definitely meant to keep going for a long time. And I will say the last thing about your chart is the moon is in what we call the 11th house, and the 11th house is where the moon lives. Okay. So every planet lives somewhere in the chart, and the 11th house is the internet, having an audience, indicating a group or a following. So this is where I'll see people who have fame placements will be in this area. So you have your south node, which is karma, which means you guys are coming here to do good karma from your past lives. You have your career line, which means you're supposed to be doing this for work and for money. And then you have your moon, which is you're supposed to be tugging at people's heartstrings, and people will follow you and not adapt, but like really look up to what you're doing because of that. So people are very drawn to you.
This is crazy. Like, this is really good. And again, like, I really want to accept this. It's so hard.
I know.
You know what I mean? Cause like, it's just really good. Have you ever done this and it was the opposite for somebody? Like, you know, like they're going out of business and they're like, you're like, hey, like,
it's not the right time.
It's not the right time. Or like, what you're doing, here's what I'm seeing, but you're doing this. You know what I mean? Has that kind of come about?
Yeah, for sure. I've seen in people's personal charts where I look at their chart and I'm like, they're so out of balance from where, but they're also really unhappy. So I think happiness, or the state of happiness, comes from being in alignment with yourself and your soul and your spirit, which I do believe are two different things. And this reading can help you understand what's so out of whack for you.
That could make sense, because I feel like me and you are in really good places right now. So the fact that our reading is so positive, that can speak to that. You know what I'm saying? Like, we're not super down right now. We're like, we talk about it after every podcast that we shoot. Like, we're in this, like, we're not getting burnt out yet. You know, we're just like on it. So we're in a good spot. Maybe a year later we could do another reading, and then you'll see that, you know, that change, you know, because stuff is up and down, but so, I mean, that makes a lot of sense with, what was it? You said the career, or the
The career line.
The career line. So I want to touch on your previous career line. So where did that start? And because I know you've done a lot of things. You mentioned you've been like a makeup artist. You've been a chef in Dubai, which is crazy.
Yeah.
So maybe one of your early, like, I guess, real jobs, what were you doing? Was it doing makeup or?
Yeah, so after I graduated high school in 2011, I moved out to LA and I went to school for special effects makeup.
Oh, what
And,
the hell? That's
yeah.
crazy. So not regular makeup.
No, it was special effects. Yeah.
Wow, that's dope.
Pretty cool.
Yeah. And then about maybe a year in, I started having a lot of health issues, a lot of acne, and just feeling really low and depressed with myself. And so can I say that I took magic mushrooms?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Say whatever you want. Yeah. Hell yeah.
Yeah, so I
Shrooms? Gotcha. Yeah.
So I was invited to a mushroom ceremony, and
This sounds like some LA shit.
it definitely
No, that's
was.
what I lived in LA. That shit was like normal.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I went for it, and I had this big breakthrough with myself where I just was like, I don't want to do makeup anymore. I felt like I could feel my muscles being like, help, you're only 21. Why do you feel like this? And as soon as I made that statement with myself, I got a job working in a vegan kitchen. It was a yoga studio, and this woman was out of her mind, but she set me on the trajectory for even where I am now, 10, 11 years later. Have you heard of Burning Man?
Yeah.
It's like that in her studio all the time. So she had yoga downstairs, she had raw vegan food upstairs, and she was just this nutcase, but brilliant, so incredible at what she did. And so I started working for her, and she would pay me $450 a month under the table, and that was it. How I survived in LA doing that, I have no idea.
Were you by yourself?
Yeah.
What the heck?
Yep.
You had roommates though, right? Like we live or no?
Yeah, I had a roommate, and then I would walk 18 blocks every day because I didn't want to pay for parking. And
Sure.
again, just goes back to that when you feel like you're aligned with something, you have the energy for it.
Just cut costs wherever you can. Figure it out type stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm 21, so I have all types of energy at that point. And so I start losing weight, and my acne starts to clear up, and I was just like, holy cow, this is what I want to do. I want to help people with their bodies. And so makeup and food might not seem similar, but they actually are, and they're both very artistic. And so I just went in full-fledged. I would buy ingredients to practice. I would sell it in my apartment complex, and I would get just enough money to rebuy the ingredients and then sell it again.
Just keep doing it. Yeah. And was that vegan or regular food?
Yeah, that was vegan food.
Vegan food? Okay. Damn.
Yeah.
Are you vegan right now?
No,
Oh, okay, gotcha.
but I gave it a good run.
Yeah,
You did. So you converted like to just only
yeah.
eating vegan
I
for
was full-blown
for how long?
6 years. 6
How did you
years.
feel during that? Like, because obviously, like health and people's diets are a big thing, and so being vegan, like, did you notice like a big difference in yourself, or?
Absolutely. I noticed a huge difference until I didn't. And then the reason I switched back was because then I started having health issues. And I think it was connected to the restrictions of what I was eating. But
Convert back to what? Jack in the Box?
yes, McDonald's. I'm like, I
Just
never
kidding.
wanted to.
Yeah.
No, I think that's important because I have a cousin that was vegan for years and years. And he said he just had like a calling that he needed to eat meat. His body wanted it. So I think it's important for people out there, health wise, just to listen to your body. Like, you don't have to always fight it. Because I do think there is a good portion of us that eat too much meat in general,
for sure. Yeah.
But I don't know if everyone's body's different. Some people can operate on just veganism. They don't need to eat anything but
Fish,
plants. Some people like pescatarian, but I think every body literally is different. So like, I feel like you got to listen to your body. So that's important that you did that. You're like, I need to go back. But anyway, so you're selling the vegan
Pies. There were pies.
pies?
Yeah.
What? Like,
cool.
like,
was
pot
just-
pies?
No, just like it was kind of the staple of the woman that I was working with. Her name was Sherry. And so I wanted to learn. And the thing was, she wouldn't teach me. She would only let me watch. But I wanted to learn. It was so good. I mean, just seeing the look on people's faces when they would eat her food, it was crazy.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I just fell in love with it. I started working at different restaurants, and I started working at Erewhon, if you've heard of Erewhon before. No.
Is that like a poppin' restaurant? out there?
Yeah, it's a market out in LA, which it's like, I can't let it go. I'm like, yeah, I worked at Erewhon.
Yeah, I worked there.
But yeah, so I did that for a few years in LA, and then I got a job to go out to Dubai and cook out there vegan food. And
How did that happen?
It sounds like the most bizarre story because it is. At the time, I was dating the chef of Erewhon.
Okay.
Shout out Hector. He's awesome. We're still great friends. And a local Emirati from Dubai flew out, heard about Erewhon, and came to basically just steal the chef away. And he found Hector. He gave him the whole blueprint of the store that was opening out in Dubai. And so Hector was like, well, Nicole's going to have to come with me. And since I cook too, they were like, yeah, you come too. So I think it took maybe 4 months for us to sort everything out. And I went from LA to Dubai, and I lived out there for 2 years and cooked and traveled, and it was great.
Wow.
Yeah.
So it was a vegan restaurant in Dubai?
It was, they wanted to build something similar to Erewhon. So Erewhon is an organic market. It's like
Gotcha.
Whole Foods, but on steroids. It's kind of has a reputation for being extremely expensive, which it is, in my opinion.
I was
think
going to
it's
say
worth
it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
'Cause I remember being there and I was like, damn, this is expensive. But I mean, that's its demo. Like it caters to that.
Yeah. And I can attest working there, like it's worth it, and it's expensive for a
quality
reason.
food for sure.
Yeah. So, so we basically built, it's called Wheat Fields. It's still out there today, and it's very similar to Erewhon.
Have you went back since you came home?
I have not gone back, but it's on my list for this year. But,
Wow.
But I came back in 2019. So, I mean, I've been home for quite a while.
Okay. Yeah. What was that? How was that living out there? Because you only see pictures, and I don't think I've talked to anybody about living in Dubai.
It was hard. It was
Yeah.
really hard going from somewhere as open-minded from LA over to somewhere that it's just more conservative. It's not anything crazy, but you have to be very respectful and mindful. It's a different country, you know? So it was challenging for me, mostly the weather. And I think that was probably the first time that I experienced the whole like being a woman and not being taken seriously. Yeah.
I was going to bring that up, but I didn't want to. But I'm betting that must have been really hard.
It was.
Is there like a story you remember, like that when you felt that?
No,
or?
it's just it's just their culture, and I'm in their culture, so I need to respect it. And I didn't feel the need to be an activist over there. It was just like, this is how it is, and I'm okay with it. They were not rude. It was just more dismissing anything that I had to say.
Gotcha.
And so, you know,
I always see like it'd be a great place to visit. But living there is a whole nother level.
A whole other level. I would definitely say to go visit, but anything outside of the main city is just dirt and dust. And it's
very traditional.
Yeah, very traditional. But I mean, there's good and bad to everything. And I also I feel like my life purpose out there, and I got to travel all over the world because it's such a hub to the rest of the countries. And I got to teach classes in Bali and Thailand, and I just flew all over the place. So
Wow. So you're there, and you said you were there for 2 years?
yes.
Okay, and during that time, you're actually traveling as well, you said?
Yes.
Okay. So then, like, when you're coming up to, like, the end, obviously, did you move back to the United States?
Yes.
Here? You came to Arizona? What was, like, the point where you were just like, okay, I'm ready to come back?
When I came back to visit for a holiday here, which, by the way, they pay for your flight out here. They paid for our living. They paid for our transportation, like our car.
Who's they? Sorry.
Our boss.
The
Got it.
restaurant.
Okay, okay. The
Yeah.
restaurant
And
owner,
there's
yeah.
no taxes out there either. Yeah. So when they say money can't buy happiness, they really mean that. Because when I came back here to visit, I was like, I don't want to go back. It's so far away, and it's just so different from.
Were you getting paid really good out there?
I personally wasn't. I feel that Hector was,
Got
but
it.
I was just kind of like an add-on, I suppose. But once I got there, and the main boss, he was lovely with us and loved me and would do anything for me. But just anything outside of that was a little harder to work with.
Yeah, you're part of his team, basically,
Yeah.
right? Okay, got it.
Yeah. So
But plus, he's paying for all this other stuff. So, I mean, that adds up too, right? Like,
that's just kind of how they do it out
perks.
there.
Okay, got it. Yeah. So you come back and you visit, you said family?
Yep. I came
Okay.
to visit family.
And you're like, I'm done.
yeah.
Really?
Yeah. I'm like, I need to come home. I'm ready.
And did you end your, like, because it sounds like you had a lot of stuff going on, like relationship, job, like everything just kind of, you're like, I'm done?
To be honest, I was very depressed out there.
Oh, okay, got it. Yeah.
Yeah, I was very depressed. And I think because I wasn't really needed, I was just taken out there because I don't want to just call myself an add-on, but that's what it felt like at the time. And I had just turned 25, and that's a lot to do being so young.
Sure. Yeah.
And I just felt like it's just time. It was like this thing inside of me.
And I feel like there's some people that can play that role, and that just wasn't for you. to be that add-on. You
No,
know, you
exactly.
knew you had a purpose, and you were saying you found your purpose in Dubai.
Yeah.
So talk about that.
I just want to say too that I used to see myself as someone who was all over the place. Now I see that I just follow the breadcrumbs, and I'm so happy that I did, because I've had so many careers and done so many things. And we could talk about that later with people maybe feeling that about themselves. But yeah, so I think maybe a couple months into living out there, I started having really profound dreams where I would dream about someone from home, and I felt like the dream was telling me a story. So I just got the nerve to ask one day the person that I was dreaming about, and they confirmed what my dream was, that it was true. Okay, cool. I had one dream that, makes sense. And then it became 2 dreams, and then 3 dreams, and then 4 dreams. And then it started being dreams about people in my area. And so I would ask them, and again, they would confirm. And so the more they confirmed, the more I was like, okay, I think.
Wait, when you're asking them, like you were saying, hey, I had a dream about.
So I would say, hey, did your grandmother just pass away? But I didn't know them. And they'd be like, what? And then just look at me all crazy. And I'd be like, well, this is what I saw in my dream. And then they would open up a whole conversation. And then on my 25th birthday, I went and saw a psychic. And I was just like, look, I feel crazy. These things are happening to me. What's going on? And he said, in 3 months, you'll be at a retreat and you'll give readings at the retreat. And I was like, and then he made me give him a reading in that moment.
That was your first reading?
Yeah. He was like, here, read this card.
Uh-huh.
And I was just like, oh my gosh. And so I read the card as best what I could. And he said it was accurate, but still it just is, there's no like one specific moment. It's just all these little things that kind of came together. Mm-hmm. And then around that 3-month mark, I got asked to go teach cooking classes in Bali. And it was a retreat that was 5 days long. And so I went. And I had a deck of cards with me that I didn't know how to read, because tarot is its own art. And I just said, you know what, I'm just going to go for it. And so I put out a sign-out sheet for anyone who wanted to have a reading. And I read all 15 people there for like an hour and a half each. It was so unnecessary to go that long. And that, I think, actually was the start of my ability to read other people.
Okay, hold on, time out. We got to take a quick break. We got to take a quick break, but we want to jump right back into that here in one moment.
Yeah. So then what happened from there? So that kind of stamped, like, this is what I'm supposed to do,
yes.
Right? Okay.
Yep. And so then when I went back to Dubai, I just started doing readings on I had an Instagram page where I did just cooking videos. It was called Holistic Hustle. And it was about cooking food on a budget, vegan food on a budget. And so I posted that I feel like I have this ability. Does anyone want a reading for free? And I had a little following on that page. So I woke up to 200-300 messages of people just like, please, please, please. And
200 to 300?
Mm-hmm. And I tried to go through every single one because I was just determined. I was like, I have to.
Whoa, that's a lot of messages.
Yeah, because I mean, at the time I thought this is an ability I was given, so I need to give it for free and give it as much as I can. Mm-hmm. And so as I practiced and read complete strangers that I'd never met before, I started to get tired and worn down. And then someone who I know that's kind of in a similar space was like, it's because you need to start charging. And if you start charging, you're going to start feeling better. So I started charging.
But you were doing all that for free?
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And cooking at the same time. So everything kind of led over.
I think that's important for something that you do, that if you really like it, if you're down to do it for free. Mm-hmm. So I think that speaks volumes that you're like, I just really want to do this. Like, I'll do it for free. Yeah. But obviously you can't do that forever because we need to make a living, but you would be down to do it for free if you could, right?
Oh, yeah. And I think this is 2018. So it's not how it is now where it's like, oh, monetize every hobby that you have. And it was just, I was truly so infatuated with it. So I just kept going. And then when I started charging, people kept coming. And so then even women from Dubai would come, and it was amazing because they would, they have their hijabs on and they would take it off and just be comfortable with me, which was crazy because it's so opposite of the religion. Mm-hmm. And it just kept growing from there, honestly. And then when I started getting ready to come back to the States, I said to myself, I feel like cooking's going to take a back seat and readings are going to take over more. And so that's how cooking kind of fell away. And then my readings took over.
Got you. So you were at this time you were cooking and you were cooking and giving readings in Dubai, and then also doing readings for people on your Instagram. Okay, and then so when did you come back? Did you continue to cook here, or?
I did for a little bit. I actually got a job working as a private chef for a family in Scottsdale.
Oh, okay.
And I was doing that and readings back and forth. And I was so busy with readings. I was like booked out like 2 months in advance. And I just got the courage to get my own apartment out here. And I didn't go back to LA because I felt like I wanted to be here with my family. So then when COVID happened, I got let go from being a chef, private chef, and I was just so riddled with fear that I was going to get fired that in that moment I said, okay, I'm doing readings full time now because I can't fire myself. And I hate this feeling of someone being able to hold my job over my head. And so ever since then, I've done it full time, and just even the months where I make $0 is better than feeling like someone could fire me.
Whoa. So how many
2020?
years? 4 years.
When you went?
Yeah.
Got it. And so they let you go, or you just said like, I can see the writing on the wall, or?
They just were like, we don't want anyone coming back to the house until this is over. And then the over never came.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Cause we didn't know how long it was going to last. That makes sense. Yeah. And then how did you kind of promote yourself? Cause you were already booked out.
Yeah.
Okay. And then like, how did that happen? Were you just like, okay, guys, like I'm all the way in, or you just kind of kept booking yourself out?
Yeah, I just kind of posted like, we're all at home. Everyone had their stimmies, so they were like ready to spend their money. And it just worked out really well. And the momentum just kept going for years.
So you just kept doing it on Instagram. Did you ever like practice somewhere, or was it always just through Instagram?
Always just through Instagram.
Damn, that's scary. Did you have to do like a side job too?
Nope.
Just full time doing that. Whoa, that's scary.
What's your workload like right now?
So that's when the health issues started, and I have alopecia, and it was pretty bad. And I didn't know if it was because I was doing so many readings, or if it was the food, or it was just the stress of life.
And alopecia is it's like spots on the hair, right? How bad was it? Because I had it a couple times.
Yeah, it was pretty bad. The whole back of my head was missing, the side of my ear, and it was pretty devastating.
Yeah, it sucks.
Yeah.
Especially for a woman like us, we could just go bald, but like a woman.
Dude, it sucked though, because
you can't cover it for you.
No, I couldn't cover it. And I had like a retail job at that time. So I had a huge spot on the side of my head. So I kept on trying to get fades. That kind of would I was getting a fade like every
Just
3 days, dude,
it.
just to try to blend it. And someone would be like, who fucked up your hair? Like they would just talk shit. And I'd be like, bro, I have like alopecia, dude. Like, you know what I mean? They feel all bad. But I know going to a doctor and they put like, I don't know what kind of shots.
Cortisone
Shots? That shit grew back real quick.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. And for like a while though, someone actually put me onto it.
Yeah. And sometimes it doesn't work for some people. And I was very into the natural world, so I didn't want to do it. And yeah, so I was doing so many readings day in and day out. And then when that started getting worse, I was like, okay, I need to slow this down a little bit. So I was on a trip in Vancouver, and this man that me and my friends had run into, I kind of told him what was going on. He was a very wealthy man, and he was like, you need to charge more and work less. And it just hit me. So I went home, I like doubled my price, and it's worked ever since. I mean, there's other things. Like I told you, I started eating meat again, and I just stopped stressing out as much, but he was right. And so I just stayed at that.
So you're just working too much.
I think so. And yeah, it's a lot to read a person, you know. You're going into the depths of their pain and things that they've been through in the past and what they're holding in the future. And you have to support them through that. And then you're also telling them things that you see they're not telling you.
Sure. And then how long does like a reading take usually?
It takes me an hour.
Okay.
Yeah. And it takes me about 3 days to recover from it.
Really?
Yeah. But that's as the more advanced I get into it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you have a lot of that occurring when you're not doing readings, or can you like turn it off? Like when you go into a room, do you feel things, hear things? Like how does that work?
I can definitely turn it off.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's not something that's constant?
No, it's more of a mental decision. When anyone who starts getting into it, they're like feel responsible to feel and see everything for everyone. but it's not your responsibility. I have had times where I've gone into places and felt like something serious was going to happen to a person, but it is not my weight to carry, and I'm not God. So like, however it's supposed to
Play out
is how it will.
Got it.
Yeah.
And I know you mentioned this to me before, but and you kind of mentioned it in the podcast too, that you were saying you're doing this to help others and kind of understand maybe what they're going through or their own suffering. Can you talk through that a little bit?
Yeah. I think that when we go through life, we try to make life as pain-free as possible and as no challenges and no hurt. But pain and suffering is, as I told you, it's like the sacrifice of being here. It's inevitable. So instead of trying to always make it go away, if you just understand it and you embrace it, then you will grow so much more than you would if you're just constantly trying to be like, well, why do I feel like this? And just push it to the side. So when I'm in a reading with someone, I'm not telling them the easy answers, because that's not even how I see it. I don't know if you're going to go through a breakup or lose your house or someone's going to die, but I can tell you how
It's more of a psychic, right?
That's more of a psychic, and also that's very irresponsible if someone were to do that.
Right.
Right? So, and one of my personal takes on the field is just with TikTok and everyone picking up a deck of cards and giving these readings. It's the guy who told me I'd be giving readings in 3 months. He told me it's a responsibility and you don't ever treat it as anything other than that. And so if someone gets a reading, the reason they've probably had a bad experience is because people aren't always caring and loving and empathetic, and I have to set you up for success. So when you leave the reading, you feel empowered. You don't feel like the world's going to be worse than it was when you came here. So I can't take your pain away, but I can help you understand why it's happening. And then you feel like you can take it on and move forward with more strength.
And how do you perceive death? Because I feel like in America, it's kind of a really sad thing, and it's something tough that people go through. But I feel like there's a lot of cultures that embrace it and talk highly of it. And it's like, I don't know why we don't do that more. I feel like in Mexican culture, you do a little bit more.
Yeah.
But in America, it's not like that so much. Yeah. How do you feel about it?
Death is very, very sad, and it can be bittersweet, just like when you've had someone that's passed and you're like, they're in a better place now, and it's this relief that you might feel from their own suffering. But I believe that the soul is eternal, and your relationship doesn't stop with someone just because they've died. And so in a reading, or just my ideology in life, is to learn the signs or learn how they're speaking to you. And also just don't, it doesn't have to be so taboo. Like even my mom just said to me the other day, I really want to talk to you about what it's like to not have your parents on earth, because my parents never talked to me about it. You know, just both her parents passed recently, my grandparents. And she's like, so I want to talk about it. And she wants me to tell her what I would want if I died suddenly. And so making it not so taboo, and then just knowing that like your loved ones really are with you. And I think one of the most addicting feelings in giving readings is when I feel someone's crossed over loved one. That is like the most euphoric space to be in. And you can feel it too, for sure, if you open yourself up to it. So do you ever feel like someone you've lost is with you, or how do you feel like it comes to you?
Yeah, I think I've embraced it a little bit more lately, but sometimes I just attribute it to like coincidence or something. Like I'll see something and I'll be like, oh, that reminds me of my Nana or something like that. Like, you know, everyone does, but I don't think I've really embraced it so much to where I know for sure,
right?
You know, but yeah, so I think that's kind of how do you feel about it?
Damn, that's deep, dude. That's a deep question. Yeah. Like I'm getting a little emotional about it, to be honest with you.
But who are you thinking about when you're thinking about it?
No, I had a cousin that she passed away. She overdosed when I was younger, and I have some tattoos that are like in remembrance of her. And so there's some things that like, I don't know, that happened. I'm just like, she's with me.
Yes.
You know?
Yep.
I'm sorry, I'm getting a little
frustrated.
No.
So do you ever see anything where you're like, oh, that was her? Or
I don't know if I see anything. It's more of a feeling, to be honest with you.
Like you feel her energy or something?
Yes. Yes.
Oh.
Yeah. And I just want to say too that the emotion, it has to happen. When you have emotion, you open up a channel inside of yourself for something to move through you. And the reason you're getting emotional is because she's with you in that moment. So a way that I describe them being with you is coincidence is a thing. Like you could just see 11 at 11 on the clock. It doesn't have to mean something. But when you have that thing run through your head, like this reminds me of my grandmother, or even maybe if you think of something that happened with your cousin, it makes you chuckle. That's them being with you in that moment. Music, birds. I always say the metaphysical world is very light and airy, so it comes in just a moment and then it's gone. And the more you try to hold on to it, the more you rationalize it. And, and why not give yourself that gift and that right to be able to feel someone that influenced your life so strongly at one time.
Yeah, I agree, because I have a cousin that practices different things like Reiki and stuff, and he put that in my head where he was talking about my Nana and her passing, and I would tell him, like, I repress those thoughts, and like when I want to tell my wife like stories and stuff, I don't talk about them because it's hard to, like it sucks. But he was like, no, you're supposed to. You need to open, like you said, open up to allow that to happen, because if you don't, then you don't have that connection anymore. That connection kind of dies on itself. You know what I'm saying? So I have, like I said, been a little more open lately. It still is hard. It's tough to even talk about, like Frankie's saying, like to even think about how much you miss somebody. But I feel like you have to, like, that's the only way to keep them with you.
Yeah. And to allow their souls to continue to live on. I always say that if you go do anything that scares you or it's different for you, you give them the gift of seeing the world through your eyes so that they can continue to live on. And so if she passed of an overdose, there's a lot of layers to that conversation when someone passes of an overdose. But I know that when people, I don't know if it was like recreationally or it was like a substance situation with your cousin, but they're not ready to go when that happens. And so how can you continue living your life for them in their honor, and what strengths can they give you? So,
yeah. And I think that's what, because my thought passed away too, but it was more of like, he was obviously at a different age, and, it was like his passing, even though it wasn't like, I don't feel like he was ready. It was due to like a surgery that went wrong.
Oh, wow.
But like, I'm a little bit more, it's a little bit more emotional for my cousin because it was an overdose and she was young. And so it just felt like different, it feels different than that. But yeah, like, do you get a lot of people that come to you that are wanting to talk to you about a person that passed away? Or like, what is like the main like reasons, like why or there's more like astrology, or like, how is that?
It's all types of things. Mostly if someone just feels really lost and they've exhausted all options to feel better. And I don't really know what's wrong until I get in there with them. And when it comes to people who have passed away, that's common as well, because grief is something that never goes away. It's more like, this came from one of my mentors, but grief is something that will always be there. You just decide to grow flowers around it. And they want to know how to do that. I also want to say too, especially if I feel like there's someone listening that needs to know this, but when you don't move on, you keep the soul kind of stuck from moving on as well. So we feel like we need to grieve and hang on as much as we can. But when you actually continue living life after, that's what helps the soul move on and feel like it can be at peace. And that's one of the main questions I get is, are they okay? Are they at peace? Of course, I'm going to say yes. But sometimes I feel like they're not at peace. And then that's a whole other conversation or a way that I'll deal with the reading if I do feel like someone's crossed and not at peace.
I guess that helps me like put a little bit more context into, like, because you were just talking about how when you spend like an hour with somebody and then there's sometimes where it just drains you so much where it takes you a couple of days. Because I think like now that we're putting it into a little bit more context, like I could see how that could be so draining, because it's very heavy that someone is putting a lot of weight on you, like because this is a heavy weight on them. And so you're really like talking that through with them. And man, I mean, I'm pretty sure people get really, really emotional with you, right?
Of course. Yeah. And as they should. I mean, I'm made for this. So it's not supposed to be like, oh my gosh, I'm so drained. But it's just like, if you go exercise, you're going to be tired after. It doesn't, it's like the worst thing ever. Right. So but I'm built for it and I'm here to support. And so the reason it takes me so long is because I feel like I have to detach from, this might sound a little wonky, but I feel like we all resonate at this like certain frequency, our energy. When I do a reading, I have to pull myself up here, but there's always what goes up must come down. So I'm more of just like a mere mortal before a reading. When I do one, I'm like pushing myself up to something. And then when I come down, that's the hardest part about it.
Ooh. Has it been really hard for you to accept this like ability, I guess you could say, because you were really like in the kind of like 9 to 5-ish kind of work world, obviously being a chef and like a team and doing a lot of things that most normal people do, that like where they just go to work and go home, I guess you could say. And then you were traveling and you were really work focused, I guess you could say. Yeah. Where this is just like there's different. Did it take you like how long was that like transition, I guess you could say? I don't know if I'm questioning this right, but because some people might be scared of this, like, and be like, hey, like, why am I having these dreams? Like, I'm freaking out. Like, I need to see, like, I shouldn't be having this. Where it seems like you were more of like curious and then more accepting. Like, how?
I guess you're trying to ask, once you start seeing things, how long was the process where you're like, I need to be doing this, or the other side of, I need this to stop? Like, this is weird.
Yeah.
Like, how long did that process, or was that even a process?
No, that wasn't a process. I always knew that, because it just unraveled itself so gently that it just makes sense. And I always struggled with 9 to 5s and paying attention, all of that. So it was a relief to feel like there was something else for me. And I just, in my birth chart, there's just a lot about helping people and being more into psychology and philosophy. And so this gives me, and there's a lot of spiritual connection in my birth chart as well that can't really be denied. Actually, my first instance was with my dad talking to me about demons and what that was when I was little. And that was so scary to me. And I feel like it's because my veil is a little bit thinner. I mean, it's scary for anyone to talk about that. But it's been very natural. But if anything, pairing business with it has been the hardest part, because it is a gift and I want to give it for free. But you know what I'm saying? So keeping the business afloat has been the hardest part of the whole journey.
I feel like people are, when they request like something like that you do, there it's like almost do they think it's free, or like, I don't understand, because I would think that like there's a fee like associated with this type of work.
It's just hard putting a number on it. I mean, I charge $375 for an hour, and it's like, to someone who doesn't understand, it's like the most, it's so expensive. And I totally understand it. It is, but it's just where I've had to be at to be able to give a reading to the capacity that I can.
Sure.
And I'm only seeing 2 or 3 people a week. I'm not seeing more than that.
Well, I mean, like at the end of the day, it goes back to like knowing your worth and your value and like what you offer. And so some person that might be really expensive, to another person, it's really cheap and it's really worth it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I try to say you only need to see me once. So you're not constantly coming back to me. But yeah, I think even just being able to speak to you two about it, and I want you to, like, just the emotion that was moved through you with this conversation is just, I want more people to experience that, because that's where the answers are to their struggles and to their pain, but when we push it to the side, or like, no, it's too much, then years and years and years of that build up, and then you're lost. You don't know who you are. You don't know what to do. You've lost your appetite for life. And so you kind of have to reverse engineer, like, to your curiosities and to your pain and your struggles, and go into that. You can be scared, but still do it just being scared.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it just comes down to people being more open-minded about different things. Like, if you're shutting off all these things because of, how you feel or your religion, or you're scared, you could be denying a whole nother side of yourself, pretty much. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So kind of what you were asking, you were transitioning, or you did transition it to a business. So you were charging, but now you've transitioned it to your own cards. Mm-hmm. So you had an idea because you used the tarot cards. Is that how you pronounce it?
I don't use tarot cards in a reading.
Tarot cards. Okay. Yeah. But that's what you had used
that first time.
Yeah. So now this is something that you created. Mm-hmm. It's not a tarot card deck per se, but it's similar. It's a deck of cards. Talk a little bit about how that came about, because you said it took a few years, 3 years, was it?
Yeah, 3 years.
3 years, yeah.
Mm-hmm. I was taking a break from readings in 2021 and just trying to recalibrate. And I was just sitting on the couch and I was like, it was supposed to be just a fun little, I should make a card deck. Like, why not? There's something called Oracle decks, which is similar to tarot, but it's more free. You can freestyle how you write and what the animations are versus tarot is a set structure.
Gotcha.
Okay. And so I just reached out to a friend who's in the fine arts. I asked her if she knew an artist, and she sent me 2 people. And when I saw Sheree, shout out Sheree, I was like, that's the girl. And so we started working together. And my main thing about it was I want people to have access to my style of reading or seeing the metaphysical in their pocket. And at this point, I've seen so many people, I've done so many readings, and there's a lot of patterns and similarities I see. How can I write that into a little booklet where people can just use it anytime, any place? And so the deck is more specified to people who are creative and are struggling with their creative pursuits. But as we've used the deck, I mean, you could use it no matter what.
And so you brought it, correct?
I did, yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, and it's called Comparison Kill the Creative. That's the business name, and that's the card deck name.
43 cards, okay.
What did she say when you came to her to do art for this? Was it a no-brainer? Or?
Yeah, Sheree is super down, and she was excited. And I think, if anything, it's more just been like our own personal styles of working that we've butt heads on before, because artists, including myself when I say this, we're always trying to protect ourselves and like have, you know what I mean? Like look out for our work and our worth. And so once we came to a closing about that, everything just went really well. But the writing, because when you pull a card, there's a guidebook. So you go to the guidebook and it tells you what the card means.
Oh, cool. Okay.
And that's what took me 3 years to write.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I love that you know, a lot of, when we talk to people and they want to create a business, they're so quick to want to get it out, where you're saying like, this took 3 years, right? I don't hear that a lot. I hear more of like, we were able to get this up and running in 1 month or something crazy like that. Where like you're saying 3 years. So the 3 year, I guess, like journey with this, how much did it change over time? Because that's a long time for like an idea to start to like for it to come to fruition, and then maybe you're like, no, it's not right yet. Like, can you talk us through that process a little bit? Yeah.
So the phrases that are on each card, that came out pretty quickly, and that's what stuck. And that's actually what's so impressive to me, is that those phrases still resonate. So for example, there's boredom is beauty, hands of heaven, you know, so there's these like little affirmations that stuck. The description under each one is what took me 3 years, because I had to grow up and I had to mature, and I had to almost live out the process of the deck in order to fully embody it. And I think it took so long because I was 28 when I started it, and I was 31 by the time it came out. So it was just writing and then scratching and then writing over again and coming back over and over and over, and then not touching it for a few months, and then coming back and hating everything that I left. And then it actually wasn't until my breakup with Jimmy in September that I feel like I had the most growth, because that was so painful to go through. And that's what put the final touches on the descriptions. And then I was like, okay, it's ready now.
That's deep.
I say we open it up and
maybe
check out a card. While he's opening that up, to go back a little bit, we touched on it, but let's talk about it. You said that your event went great for it. So you guys did a release party or like a launch of it. And these are available online, right? Mm-hmm. So you guys can go to Nicole the Medium or the Comparison Killed the Creative on Instagram to get the cards. But you said that the event went good. So talk a little bit about the event and why you guys decided to do like a launch party instead of just dropping them online.
Well, when we started the deck, I was like, we obviously have to do an art show to showcase some of the art that's on here. And then it went from just that to, this is a whole organization. And now Comparison Killed the Creative is an organization that helps support creative minds. So it just kept growing, and it wouldn't stop growing. It went from just an art show to let's have 20 other vendors to is anyone even going to show up? And that was the scariest part. Oh my God. Like that is crippling.
Yeah. I remember that too. When I would throw events, I'm like, is anybody going to even show up? And then when it first starts, it's like, you know, I don't know, sometimes it would like be like a lot of people, then sometimes it'd be like nobody, and then they would show up like later or whatever it was.
Yeah, and then we kind of were put in a position where we just had to charge at the door because of all the things that we were adding on, and that was even scarier. Like, who's going to pay to come see us? We don't. Sheree definitely has a name in the city more than I do, but I had to face a lot of those inner insecurities of like, if no one comes to this giant warehouse with 20 vendors, like, I'm going to just have to be okay with it because I'm doing it for something bigger than my own ego and, you know, to soothe my own insecurities.
Yeah.
So
but it worked out.
It did. And like I said, we had over 400 people, and that is insane. And also the way that like women gravitate to my work very easily, but men, you guys are a little bit tougher. And the amount of men that thoroughly enjoyed the event, that was a huge accomplishment for me because you guys hold so much power, but you know, you don't always open up the most easily or talk about your feelings. And so to get people there that were open to doing that, they were getting readings. We had psychics there giving readings with the deck. Wow. Yeah. And to see men getting them, it was awesome.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's dope.
That's cool, man.
What the hell?
So that was something that you just were not expecting.
Oh, no, I wasn't expecting. I don't know what I was expecting, to be honest with you. I just knew what was required of me, and that was to do my job with the show. And then whatever came after that was what was going to come after that.
And so, look, there's one of the cards if you want to like show the camera. But at the event, what you guys did was blew those up to big. I don't know, how big were they? Like,
they were 6x4, and I
6 foot by 4 foot, right? Yeah.
And I got the idea from Alice in Wonderland, the giant card people.
Oh, cool, yeah.
And so I was like, we need to have that.
That's dope. Yeah. So that they were up everywhere around the event.
There was 3 of them, and then we had 9 canvases, and we extracted some of the descriptions and some of the wording, and we just played around with it. So we were giving you something, but we weren't giving it all away.
That's cool.
That's dope.
I got to see some of the pictures, and it looked really, really cool.
So let's talk through this. So let's say we pull this out. That's a fire picture too.
Put your soul into it.
Put your soul into it is what this card says.
Yep.
So what would we? So we would go through this book and find that description.
So there is a description manual or a instruction part in the front. But yeah, so if you were struggling with something, you would go and you would shuffle the cards. You would lay them all out face down, and then you would just see which one is kind of calling to you.
Okay.
You pull 3 to 5. The black cards actually don't have a description because I wanted to push the audience to interpret things for themselves.
So this one right here then?
Yep. Both of those black cards don't have a description on them. That one does.
Okay. So remove conditions and restrictions.
Yeah. Gotcha. So you would go to the booklet and it would describe what that means to you. But another cool little interesting thing is that all of the images are of people that have inspired us along the way. So that's my friend Julian. He's a dancer out in LA.
Nice.
There's several people in there that have passed throughout the journey. So they got photographed for this and then they passed away.
I think Jimmy's dog is in here, right?
Jimmy's dog is in there. Yeah.
Cool. Really cool.
So like, for example, we pulled the remove conditions and restrictions. So I'll just read the first paragraph because there's a few paragraphs here. But without realizing it, we place stern expectations on our art and restrict its expression. We want it to provide us something, feed us something, get us recognized for something. But how beautiful it is to love something unconditionally, to love without expecting anything back. So that's remove conditions and restrictions. Damn, that's a good paragraph.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Yeah, and that card is just about kind of like when, for instance, you started this because you love it, your podcast, and then when you get to that point where you feel like it's not giving you anything anymore, do you stop or do you continue forward? And so that card's about loving your art without the conditioning of, unless you give me something back, then I don't want to give to you. And that can also go into the category of love. Once my partner stops giving me something, I don't want to be with them anymore. And so, yeah, it's a very magical. We actually planned the entire event through pulling cards. When we would get stuck on something, we'd just be like, pull a card, let's see what happens. And it worked out.
Have you got, I know it's so new, so maybe not, but have you got a lot of feedback yet, like from using it?
Yes. From the people who have used it, yes. I think we've had probably more feedback about the show, which is great because that means our reputation is good and people trust us now when we want to do this stuff in the future. But because this took 3 years to make, I know it's going to take a while for people to really get into it. But I'm very proud of it. And anyone who uses it, I think they're just going to absolutely love it. So that's my opinion, my biased opinion on it.
Yeah, that's dope. I mean, to bring something to life from, like I said, from nothing, that's a crazy accomplishment. If something I mean, knock on wood, hopefully not. But if something was to happen to you, this deck is in the world forever going forward. So no one can take that away from you.
I know. And you know what? Actually, there's something in my astrology chart that someone told me that I have the ability to be an author. And I was like, no, absolutely not.
Because you're thinking, I'm not writing a book.
Yeah. Well, and I just wasn't interested in writing. Like, this wasn't even an idea yet. But because I had that seed planted, I was like, no, I can do this. If that's, it could be placebo effect at the end of the day, but it works.
Yeah.
And you wrote all of it?
I wrote the entire thing.
Wow.
From start to finish.
43 cards.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, congratulations again on that. That's a huge accomplishment.
Thank you.
It looks really good, and I love the idea, and it's very, very creative. So kudos to you on that.
Thank you.
Yeah. Before we finish up, do you have anything? I know this is the highlight right now. This is what you got going on. But do you have anything else that you want to promote or talk about, or that you have coming up, or even your business?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I'm definitely here if anyone needs me. And but other than that.
And how do they reach you?
Through my Instagram, Nicole the Medium.
Okay, so follow. It's Nicole the Medium on IG. Do you do any other socials?
No.
Just Instagram.
So Instagram, and then they shoot you a DM, and basically just say, "Hey, I'm interested," and you kind of set them up the rest from there.
Yeah, you can just DM me and say, "I heard you from the podcast," and then maybe there'll be a special little discount for those people.
Okay, that's what I'm talking about. Okay, so DM Nicole the Medium. Say you heard her on the Beyond the Brand podcast, and you heard her just right now. A little special discount.
Might get a little some.
I like it.
I do like that. That's dope, man. Well, congratulations. This is amazing. This is the Beyond the Brand podcast. So our favorite question that we love to ask is at the end, why do you do what you do? I know you talked about so many different things. You've been a chef, you've been a makeup artist, you've done this, and you said you found your gift. So why do you think you do it? Or why do you think it was placed upon you even?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, that is such a big question. I think the answer is just my soul requires me to do it. And my soul requires me to do it.
And you just feel that calling.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a calling and an itch and just something that's constantly pulling me forward. And yeah, I love putting a meaning to my suffering, as I told you before. And now I'm in school for psychology, to elevate it even more. And my professor says that if you can't expect anything from life anymore, you're here because life is still expecting something from you. And so if I'm here, life is requiring something of me, so I might as well try to explore that and live it to its fullest.
Dang.
Yeah.
That was amazing.
Yeah, that was really good. And, I really appreciate you doing the reading for us because, again, I know it requires a lot of time and effort to do that. So thank you so much. But, again, really appreciate you. You guys, again, you can contact her on Instagram. And thank you.
You're welcome.
Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Amazing. Thank you.
Yeah.
Peace.
Peace.